Hey, welcome back. In this world that we live in, with notifications and endless feeds, being able to truly focus, well, that's a genuine superpower. So today, we are going to unpack exactly how to do that. We're going to go from understanding why we get so distracted to how we can master that state of peak concentration. Let's dive in.
So let's just start with a question that I think hits a little too close to home for a lot of us. You sit down, you've got your books out, you're ready to study, and like 5 minutes later, your brain is just screaming for a distraction. And yet, you can somehow lose 3 hours scrolling through short-form videos without even blinking. What is going on there? Well, it all boils down to one very powerful chemical in your brain.
And that chemical, of course, is dopamine. It's the brain's feel-good molecule, the reward system. Now, this thing evolved to keep us alive, right? To motivate us to find food or seek shelter. The problem is, today, that system is being hijacked. Think about it. Social media is basically a dopamine slot machine. It is perfectly engineered to give you a tiny, instant reward with every single swipe. Studying, on the other hand, that's what we'd call a low dopamine activity. The reward is way off in the future, and it takes real effort to get there. So after your brain has been feasting on all this easy, high dopamine content, of course it finds studying boring. But what if we could actually hack our brains to make that kind of deep work feel just as compelling?
Well, that is where this incredible mental state comes into play. It's the absolute key to turning those difficult, boring tasks into something deeply engaging, something you actually enjoy. It's a state called flow.
Yeah, so the term actually comes from the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And when he was doing his research, he found that people he interviewed kept using the exact same metaphor to describe this experience. They said it felt like a water current just carrying them along, completely effortless. And honestly, that's the perfect way to describe being in the zone. So the official definition of flow is this state of total immersion. It's when you are so locked into what you're doing that literally nothing else seems to matter. And it's not just about concentration. It's about having this energized focus and, believe it or not, genuine enjoyment in the process itself. This right here is the sweet spot for both productivity and, frankly, for happiness. You know when you're in a state of flow because the rest of the world just fades away. Your sense of time gets all warped. Hours can feel like minutes. That little nagging voice in your head, the one full of self-doubt, it goes completely silent. Your actions feel smooth, almost automatic. And you're no longer working for some external reward like a grade. The work itself becomes the reward.
Okay, this all sounds pretty amazing, right? But the great news is, it's not some mystical state that's only reserved for, world-class artists or elite athletes. There's actually a clear mechanism behind it. So the real question is, how do you and I actually get there?
Well, the secret to flow is all about finding the perfect balance. It lives right there in that top right box where a high level of challenge meets a high level of your own personal skill. See, if a task is way too hard for you right now, it just creates anxiety. But if it's way too easy, you slip into boredom or apathy. The magic happens when you find that sweet spot where the task stretches you just enough, but it's still within your reach. That's the gateway to flow.
All right, so let's shift gears from the theory and get into the practical stuff. It is time to build a toolkit that you can actually use to start engineering flow in your own life. Okay, first things first. We have to deal with that dopamine problem we talked about at the beginning. Before you can make studying feel more rewarding, you have to make your brain more sensitive to rewards in the first place. And that means we need to do a little reset.
And listen, you don't need to go on some extreme week-long cleanse. Just start with a mini detox, 15 minutes a day. That's it. But here's the catch. No phone, no music, no stimulation whatsoever. Just sit. At first, it's probably going to feel like absolute torture. Your brain will be screaming for a hit of something, anything. And that's actually how you know it's working. You're rewiring your brain's reward system, recalibrating it so that simpler things, like reading a book, can actually feel satisfying again.
So once your brain is a little more recalibrated, the next step is to build a system around you that makes doing the focused work the path of least resistance. Real behavior change isn't about having more willpower, it's about having a smarter design. And for this, we're going to borrow a really powerful framework from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. The whole idea is to design your environment and your routines to make your good habits feel almost inevitable. It all breaks down into 4 simple laws, but we're going to zoom in on 2 of the most powerful ones, making it easy and making it satisfying.
So to make it easy, you've got to try the 2-minute rule. We all know the hardest part of any big task is just starting it. So trick yourself. Just commit to doing it for 2 minutes. That's it. Anyone can study for 2 minutes. But here's the magic. What you'll find is that action creates momentum. Motivation doesn't come first, it comes after you start. And those 2 minutes, they very easily become 10 minutes, then 30.
And then, to make it satisfying, you need to give yourself an immediate reward. A habit tracker is absolutely perfect for this. Get a calendar, and every single day you hit your tiny 2-minute study goal, put a big fat X on that day. That simple little act of not breaking the chain gives your brain a small hit of dopamine, which reinforces the habit and makes you actually want to do it again tomorrow.
Okay, so we've reset our brain. We've engineered our habits. The final piece of this whole puzzle, and honestly, it might be the most important one, is making a fundamental shift in your mindset.
There's this brilliant quote that just nails this idea perfectly. The cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity. What this tells us is that boredom isn't really about the subject itself, it's about how we're approaching it. And the antidote isn't more willpower, it's finding an angle that sparks your own genuine curiosity.
This right here, this is the mindset that absolutely kills focus. When you see studying as just a chore, another box you have to check off, your brain is going to fight you every single step of the way. And this is the shift that changes everything. Try approaching the material not because you have to for a grade, but to feed your brain's natural, built-in hunger to understand things. This simple shift transforms the entire experience from a burden into an adventure.
I love this metaphor because it's a total game changer. Stop looking at your textbooks and your notes like they're some kind of torture device. Instead, start seeing them as treasure maps. Every chapter, every paragraph, holds clues and little gems of insight that are just waiting for you to discover them. When you start approaching learning like it's a treasure hunt, it just stops feeling like work.
So I'll leave you with this question. Think about one thing on your to-do list right now, something you have been dreading. How can you reframe it? How could you find that perfect balance of challenge and skill? How can you approach it with a little bit of curiosity? How can you turn that chore into a treasure hunt? Because the power to find flow, it's already inside you. You just have to unlock it.